Hey guys, welcome to today's workout of the day, the Wealth WOD. Here with Al Lewis, and we had a lot of inquiry after we put out a video understanding the median, the terminology about median. People saying, why is this relevant to building wealth? I'll give you a rundown on why it became very relevant to us, or more to the point, give them a rundown on why it became, or what that snap moment when we realised why equity in the median house price was important to us.
Yeah, no worries. So we'll give you a practical example in a moment, we'll do a diagram on the board, but I guess for us the first thing was that my father was a very successful investor, and he drummed into us very early that equity growth was what enabled you to grow your wealth. Now, being young and naive, we didn't really understand that, but we had a real thirst for knowledge. We were going out talking to different people, and what he encouraged us to do was meet with different developers, meet with different professionals from the industry and understand their measurement. And the one thing that was unanimous across the board was that equity, or another way, equity growth was what enabled most people that were successful that we saw to get ahead. And a lot of the discussion we had with these people was what was the pivot point enabling you to step away from the day-to-day grind and be just an investor or retire or live the life you wanted. And each and every one of them would talk about their equity getting to a point that freed them up to have some control over what the banks were doing, and more importantly, them being able to do what they wanted. So we talked the other day already about how $1.5 million worth of property asset growing at 8% per year is $120,000. That's very simple. That's one deposit on a house per year. That grows and that compounds, but the median plays a big role in that, and the median and the measurement tool Cam will give you in a moment is the one thing that was consistently provided to us by these people as something that you need to keep an eye on. You want to step through it, Ken?
Cool, mate. I'm soft eyes, I've got my writing arm going on. So what we wanted to determine when we were talking about equity growth was really, our future asset or our future net wealth is determined by the bank panel valuations. So this is where median comes in, so stay with me here guys. So the future value of our asset base, is determined by those bank panel valuers. So we had to understand, and Al and I went and talked to many different valuation firms, and we became good friends with a lot of valuers over the years. But understanding the way bank panel valuers value and the way that they put a price on a certain property really determines how much net wealth you'll got. And that determines how much equity, which therefore becomes your pivot point when you can step out of the 9 to 5 grind. So I'll give you a quick diagram. But firstly, the basic three valuations, you've got the desktop valuation where a valuer gets sent a valuation from the bank or Valex, gets sent that. They literally don't leave the desk. They'll sit there, look at analytical data, RP data, price finder. They'll look at the median house price and they'll determine what a safe price is for a 4 or 3 bedroom house, and they'll do the valuation. It is similarly like a sausage factory, just turning them out. You then, once you've got properties, that's at the median or low end of the spectrum. Once you start going up, they'll do a curbside, which is literally they'll drive up and have a look at it, and then you've got the walkthrough. The walkthrough happens on high-end properties where they literally have to go and try and assess what price to put on a property. Now, understanding the mentality of a bank panel valuer, if you understand the way that they get paid, and when they're deemed negligent, if they put a valuation on a property that's a certain range, or they can't justify why they've put a price on a certain property, they are therefore deemed liable, or their insurance company's liable for the difference between what the bank could execute the property for and what they put on it. So, understanding why bank panel valuers putting certain properties on, if we look at a city market, if we look at it and go, imagine this is a city market. Anyone buying a property who's got a few bucks can afford 250K. 1.5, we'll say that's the established capital benchmark. If I look at that and I'll say the median house price in this area or suburb is 500K. Now, as investors, we want to make sure our valuations are good. So, because that determines that pivot point when we have enough equity that we can go out and forget, we do what we want when we want. So, if we're going out as investors, and this is why buying under the median house price is really important. If we're going out buying properties for 750K in an area where the median house price is 500, understanding the way the banks go about, the valuers go about putting prices on it, they're going to look at this 750K and they'll say, you're probably going to achieve that if you sold the property. But reality is, a sales agent will give you a price on a property. The way they determine a price on a property is they've got a 90-day marketing campaign. A bank panel valuer, the way they determine a price is, the bank says, sell this thing Monday, 9 o'clock. There's a vast difference. So 5 to 10% variant is what you look for. They'll look at this, they'll look at some analytical data, and they'll go, you probably achieved that, but there's no way in hell you're going to get 750 bank panel valuation on this. 650k, probably at best. 100 grand, guys, is a huge amount of money if you're trying to kick that in every time, which is why a lot of people buying in blue chip areas above the median house price for the city will always get smashed around, and they're limited. They can only duplicate 1 or 2 times at most, because no one can afford. Think about the amount of hours that you've got to work to save up $100,000 after tax money to put in every time one of these bank panel valuers comes back. Saying that, if we flip it around and we buy under the median house price in an area, we buy properties around the 400, 450k mark in an area where the city's capital is about 500, or the area is about 500, we're increasing the chance of getting a good bank panel valuation. And remember, guys, bank panel valuations determine the equity we've got. So across a portfolio of a dozen properties, for example, getting an extra 50 or 100k in valuation means a huge amount of equity that you've got additionally. And that is the pivot point which will determine when you can retire or when you can give away your 9 to 5. So guys, median house price, understanding it is very important as investors. Take care, guys.